Steve Wellington, a man whose name was synonymous with innovation and immense wealth, moved through the echoing halls of his vast Chicago mansion with a growing sense of unease. At 70, he was accustomed to a life of precision and purpose, his days meticulously scheduled, his decisions impactful. But lately, the sharp edges of his reality had begun to blur. Names slipped from his mind, appointments vanished like smoke, and familiar rooms sometimes felt alien. He'd find himself staring blankly at the ornate grandfather clock, the chimes marking time he couldn't quite grasp. His personal assistant, a young woman named Sarah, had noted the changes with concern, subtly suggesting checkups that Steve had, with increasing irritability, dismissed. He attributed the lapses to the natural course of aging, a temporary fog he was determined to push through. Yet the fog thickened, a silent, insidious encroachment on the fortress of his mind. One crisp autumn morning, Steve woke with a profound sense of disorientation, the familiar comfort of his silk sheets offering no anchor. He knew he had something important to do, a meeting perhaps, or a walk, but the details eluded him like elusive dreams. The vastness of his home, usually a symbol of his achievement, now felt like a labyrinth designed to confuse him further. He craved the clarity of the outside world, a breath of fresh air to dispel the encroaching haze, unaware that this longing would lead him far beyond his carefully constructed life, into the vibrant, tumultuous heart of a city he thought he knew so well.
Driven by an inexplicable urge, Steve found himself on the sprawling city streets, the familiar avenues of his affluent neighborhood slowly giving way to unfamiliar terrain. The carefully manicured lawns and stately brownstones faded into a landscape of bustling markets, vibrant murals, and close-knit communities of the south side of Chicago. Each turn was a new mystery, each block a forgotten chapter. The crisp autumn air bit at his face, but he felt no cold, only the insistent pull of a journey without a destination. His expensive suit, usually impeccable, was now rumpled, his hair slightly wind-blown. His mind, once a steel trap of facts and figures, now conjured fleeting images, whispers of conversations, faces he almost recognized. He clutched his wallet tightly, an instinctive gesture, even as its contents held little meaning for him. The cacophony of the city, blaring car horns, distant sirens, the chatter of passers-by was a confusing symphony that heightened his sense of dislocation. He stopped at street corners, waiting for a green light he couldn't quite decipher, his eyes scanning faces for a flicker of recognition, a signpost to guide him home. The world had become a vast, overwhelming maze, and Steve Wellington, the man who had always charted his own course, was utterly, terrifyingly lost. He had no recollection of who he was or where he was going, only an instinct to keep moving, a desperate search for a clarity that continued to elude him with every step.
Miles away from Steve's bewildering wanderings, Amelia Roberson's life on the South Side was a relentless ballet of duties and dreams. At 39, Amelia, a compassionate and resilient black woman, juggled her demanding job as a nurse with the fierce love she held for her two children, Helen, a thoughtful and observant 14-year-old, and Michael, an energetic and curious 8-year-old. Her small, cozy apartment hummed with activity from the moment the sun rose. Mornings meant packing lunches, braiding Helen's hair, coaxing Michael out of bed, and preparing for her own shift at the local community clinic. The work was fulfilling but emotionally taxing, tending to the needs of a neighborhood often overlooked. Evenings were a blur of homework, dinner preparation, and the precious moments she carved out for reading bedtime stories or helping Helen with a challenging algebra problem. Finances were always tight, a constant tightrope walk between bills and aspirations. Amelia dreamed of providing her children with more opportunities, a future unburdened by the struggles she faced daily. She carried the weight of her responsibilities with grace, her resolve unwavering. She believed in the power of kindness, the strength of community, and the unyielding hope that things would always get better. This evening, after a particularly draining day, she hurried home, her nurse's scrubs still on, her mind already on dinner and the children. Little did she know, her deeply ingrained compassion was about to be tested in a way she could never have foreseen, bringing a stranger from an entirely different world into her carefully balanced life, irrevocably altering its trajectory. Amelia was hurrying home from her nursing shift, her mind preoccupied with the dinner she needed to prepare, when her eyes fell upon an elderly white man slumped on a park bench. He was dressed in an expensive suit, now soiled and rumpled, and his face was etched with a profound confusion that instantly registered with her nurse's instincts. His gaze was vacant, his movements disoriented, a stark contrast to the vibrant chaos of the Southside Park around him. He looked utterly out of place, a lost sentinel in a foreign land. Amelia, ever the compassionate caregiver, paused, her innate sense of duty overriding her fatigue. She approached him cautiously, her voice soft and reassuring. "Sir, are you all right?" Steve looked up, his eyes unfocused, a tremor running through his frail frame. I don't know," he stammered, his voice raspy. "I don't know where I am." His words confirmed her suspicions. This man was suffering from a cognitive impairment, likely dementia. He was vulnerable, alone, and clearly in need of immediate assistance. Her heart ached for him, recognizing the terror in his lost eyes. All thoughts of her own fatigue vanished, replaced by the urgent need to help. She knew she couldn't leave him, not like this. Her training, her humanity, demanded she act. This chance encounter, born of desperation and compassion, would weave their lives together in an unexpected tapestry, binding a billionaire's fading memory to a nurse's unwavering heart, setting in motion a profound transformation for both. Amelia's quick assessment led her to the nearest hospital, where she advocated tirelessly for Steve, despite his inability to provide any identification or coherent information. The emergency room staff, initially skeptical, soon recognized the severity of Steve's disorientation. After a battery of tests, the diagnosis was unequivocal: severe dementia, likely exacerbated by his wandering and exposure. The hospital social worker explained that without family or an emergency contact, Steve Wellington, a name that still held no recognition for him, was a ward of the state. He would be transferred to a long-term care facility, a cold, institutional future stretching before him. Amelia listened, her heart heavy. She saw not just a patient, but a human being stripped of his dignity and memories, facing an uncertain, lonely existence. Despite the overwhelming responsibilities of her own life, a fierce conviction took root within her. She couldn't abandon him. The idea was daunting, bordering on reckless. She had 2 children, a demanding job, and a tight budget. Adding a frail, elderly man with advanced dementia seemed impossible. Yet the image of his lost, terrified eyes haunted her. She knew, with a certainty that transcended logic, that she had to do more. This was not just a case, it was a calling. As she spoke to the social worker, a plan, audacious and born purely of compassion, began to form in her mind. She would take him in. It was a decision that would redefine her life, challenging every boundary she knew, but promising a profound human connection she never anticipated. The decision made, Amelia faced the daunting task of bringing a lost billionaire, now effectively a stranger, into her humble home. The apartment, usually a haven of warmth and familiarity, seemed to shrink under the weight of this new addition. Steve, still disoriented, but now calmer due to medication, was a quiet, bewildered presence. He observed his new surroundings with wide, uncomprehending eyes, the simple decor and close quarters a stark contrast to the grand spaces he had once inhabited. Amelia explained the situation to Helen and Michael with gentle honesty, emphasizing the man's vulnerability and need for kindness. Helen, at 14, listened with a mixture of apprehension and empathy.
She understood the weight of Amelia's compassion, but also the practical implications of another mouth to feed, another person to care for. Michael, 8, was simply curious, his youthful innocence untouched by the complexities of the situation. He saw a new face, an old man who needed help, and his innate kindness shone through. Amelia set up a small cot in the living room, clearing space amidst her family's life. It was far from luxurious, but it was warm, safe, and filled with the unspoken promise of care. As she helped Steve settle in, his fragile gratitude, though unarticulated, was palpable. He was a blank slate, a man without a past, dependent on the kindness of strangers. Amelia knew this journey would be challenging, but as she watched her children cautiously approach him, a flicker of hope ignited within her. A belief that even the most broken connections could find healing in the crucible of a new family.
The children's initial reactions to their new house guest were a blend of curiosity and cautious acceptance. Helen, always pragmatic, had concerns about privacy and resources. She worried about her mom, seeing the extra strain in Amelia's tired eyes. Yet beneath her mature exterior, a flicker of empathy stirred for the quiet, confused man who smelled faintly of hospital antiseptic. Michael, however, with the boundless innocence of an 8-year-old, saw only a new grandpa who seemed to need a lot of looking after. He was fascinated by Steve's blank stares and gentle demeanor, often attempting to engage him in conversation or offer him his favorite toy car. "Grandpa, look!" Michael would exclaim, holding up a drawing, even as Steve's eyes drifted past it. Amelia, ever patient, encouraged their interactions, gently explaining Steve's condition in terms they could understand. "Grandpa Steve's memories are a little bit broken right now, but his heart can still feel our love." She watched with a swelling heart as Michael, undeterred by Steve's lack of response, continued his attempts at connection, seeing past the dementia to the human being within. Helen, initially more reserved, slowly began to soften, observing her brother's unwavering kindness. She started bringing Steve small comforts, a blanket when he seemed cold, a glass of water, or simply sitting quietly near him as she read. This new, unexpected addition was not just a burden, he was becoming a catalyst, drawing her children closer to the core values of compassion and unconditional care that Amelia had always striven to instill. The integration of Steve into the Robertson household was a gradual, organic process. He became a fixture in their daily rhythms, a silent observer in the symphony of their lives. The children, particularly Michael, started referring to him simply as Grandpa. The name, born of childlike simplicity, became an anchor, a new identity for the man who had lost his own. Steve, unable to articulate his agreement, would often offer a small, gentle smile when called Grandpa, a fleeting warmth in his otherwise bewildered eyes. Amelia made sure he was clean, fed, and comfortable, but she also encouraged him to participate in small, simple ways. He would sit at the kitchen table as they ate, sometimes stirring sugar into his tea over and over, sometimes reaching for a biscuit. He would listen, his head cocked slightly, as Michael recounted his day at school, or as Helen practiced her violin. He was no longer just the patient. He was a part of their family, a quiet presence that grounded them, reminding them of the fragility and preciousness of life. Amelia found herself developing an unexpected affection for him. Beneath the layers of his dementia, she sensed a kind, gentle soul, a man who, in his prime, must have been remarkable. The children's love for him, unburdened by his past or his condition, was pure and unconditional, a powerful testament to the human capacity for connection. The nickname Grandpa cemented his place not just in their home, but in their hearts, weaving a new thread into the rich tapestry of the Robertson family, making a once solitary billionaire an integral part of a loving, humble home. The integration of Steve into the Robertson household was a gradual, organic process. He became a fixture in their daily rhythms, a silent observer in the symphony of their lives. The children, particularly Michael, started referring to him simply as Grandpa. The name, born of childlike simplicity, became an anchor, a new identity for the man who had lost his own. Steve, unable to articulate his agreement, would often offer a small, gentle smile when called Grandpa, a fleeting warmth in his otherwise bewildered eyes. Amelia made sure he was clean, fed, and comfortable, but she also encouraged him to participate in small, simple ways. He would sit at the kitchen table as they ate, sometimes stirring sugar into his tea over and over, sometimes reaching for a biscuit. He would listen, his head cocked slightly as Michael recounted his day at school or as Helen practiced her violin. He was no longer just the patient. He was a part of their family, a quiet presence that grounded them, reminding them of the fragility and preciousness of life. Amelia found herself developing an unexpected affection for him. Beneath the layers of his dementia, she sensed a kind, gentle soul, a man who, in his prime, must have been remarkable. The children's love for him, unburdened by his past or his condition, was pure and unconditional, a powerful testament to the human capacity for connection. The nickname Grandpa cemented his place, not just in their home, but in their hearts, weaving a new thread into the rich tapestry of the Roberson family, making a once solitary billionaire an integral part of a loving, humble home. The weight of caring for Steve, entirely unpaid, began to take its toll on Amelia. Her nurse's salary, already stretched thin, now had to cover the additional expenses of food, occasional medical supplies, and the general needs of an elderly man. She found herself working more double shifts, her eyes growing heavier with each passing week. The children noticed too. Helen, mature beyond her years, quietly started doing extra chores, trying to ease her mother's burden. Michael, though not fully grasping the financial implications, understood that Grandpa Steve meant his mom was working harder. Amelia never complained, but the signs of her sacrifice were evident in the worn soles of her shoes, the increasingly frugal grocery choices, and the lines of fatigue etched around her expressive eyes. She passed up small luxuries, put off buying new clothes, and sometimes skipped meals just to ensure there was enough for everyone else. There were moments of doubt, whispered worries to herself in the quiet of the night, questioning if she had made the right decision, if she could truly sustain this selfless act. But then she would look at Steve, at his gentle, trusting demeanor, and her resolve would harden once more. She remembered her nursing vows, her inerrant belief in human dignity, and the simple truth that this man, regardless of his lost past, deserved care and love. This profound act of selflessness, though physically and financially draining, was forging Amelia into an even stronger, more compassionate woman, unknowingly preparing her for a future far beyond the confines of her current struggles. Amelia's compassion extended beyond her immediate family, and the community of the South Side, though initially curious, soon embraced Grandpa Steve as one of their own. Neighbors, seeing Amelia's tireless dedication, offered what help they could. Mrs. Davis, from next door, would bring over extra portions of her Sunday dinner. Mr. Jenkins, the local grocer, would sometimes slip Amelia an extra bag of fresh produce. They understood the unspoken struggles and admired Amelia's unwavering spirit. Amelia, in turn, never sought pity. She explained Steve's condition with a calm dignity, highlighting his gentle nature rather than his challenges. She taught her children that true wealth wasn't measured in money, but in the richness of human connection and the depth of one's compassion. This collective acceptance was a testament to the South Side's strong community bonds, where people looked out for each other, understanding that life's burdens were lighter when shared. Steve, though largely unaware of the extent of this communal support, thrived in the warm, inclusive atmosphere. He would sit on the stoop, watching the children play, a serene smile occasionally gracing his lips. He was no longer the isolated billionaire lost in his mansion. He was Grandpa Steve, a beloved, if bewildered, member of a vibrant, caring community. Amelia's journey of selflessness had not only provided a home for a lost soul, but had also inadvertently deepened her own roots within the community, reinforcing the belief that generosity of spirit can create the most profound and lasting connections, transforming even the most challenging circumstances into a tapestry of shared humanity. Despite his severe dementia, Steve Wellington's presence in the Roberson household brought a subtle, unexpected calm. He was a quiet anchor, his gentle demeanor a stark contrast to the usual bustle of family life. His simple needs and uncomplaining nature taught the children patience and empathy. Michael, who sometimes struggled with impulse control, found himself speaking more softly around Grandpa Steve, learning to modulate his energy. Helen, often engrossed in her teenage world, discovered a quiet solace in sitting beside him, sharing stories from her day, even if his responses were just soft murmurs. Amelia, too, found moments of profound peace in his presence. There was a unique comfort in caring for someone so utterly dependent, someone whose gratitude was expressed not in words, but in a gentle touch, a rare, fleeting smile, or the way he would lean into her warmth. His dementia, while heartbreaking, stripped away the complexities of life, revealing the purest forms of human connection. He became a living reminder of the fundamental importance of kindness, the beauty of simple moments, and the profound impact of unconditional love. He required constant care, but in return, he offered a silent lesson in humility and compassion, enriching their lives in ways they hadn't anticipated. Amelia often wondered about the man Steve had been, the life he had lived before the fog. She imagined a powerful, brilliant mind, now veiled. Yet even in his diminished state, he exuded a quiet dignity that commanded respect. He wasn't a burden, he was a silent teacher, slowly, gently, shaping the hearts of the Roberson family. One evening, a simple, poignant moment unfolded that crystallized the depth of Steve's integration into the family. Amelia was helping Michael with his reading. Helen was humming along to music with her headphones, and Steve, unusually alert, was sitting on the sofa, gently tapping his fingers to the rhythm. Michael, struggling with a word, looked up. "Grandpa, can you help me?" he asked instinctively. Amelia paused, surprised by Michael's unbidden request, knowing Steve wouldn't be able to. But before she could intervene, Steve looked at the book, his eyes tracing the lines, and then, slowly, deliberately, he pointed to a picture related to the word Michael was stuck on. It was a small, almost imperceptible gesture, but it was enough. Michael's face lit up. "Oh, it's tree!" he exclaimed, then hugged Steve's arm. "Thanks, Grandpa." Helen looked up, a soft smile gracing her lips. Amelia's eyes welled with tears. It wasn't a cure or a breakthrough in his dementia, but it was a moment of connection, a glimmer of the man Steve once was, reaching out to the child who loved him unconditionally. It was a testament to the power of presence, of enduring love that found expression beyond words. In that small, ordinary living room, a billionaire, lost in the fog of his mind, and a humble family, rich in spirit, became irrevocably intertwined. This moment, more than any other, solidified Steve's place in their hearts, not as a patient, but as a cherished patriarch, a grandpa who, despite his limitations, brought a unique and profound magic to their lives, reinforcing the beautiful truth that family isn't solely defined by blood, but by the bonds forged in kindness and shared humanity. Nearly 2 years had passed since Amelia found Steve Wellington on that park bench. 2 years of shared meals, quiet evenings, and the gentle rhythm of family life. Steve, now undeniably a part of the Roberson household, had settled into a routine, his dementia stable but still pronounced. He responded to the children's voices, enjoyed Amelia's cooking, and found comfort in the familiar sights and sounds of their apartment. The children had grown taller, their affection for Grandpa Steve deepening with each passing month. Helen was now a budding artist, often sketching Steve's serene profile as he dozed. Michael, no longer a rambunctious 8-year-old, was a thoughtful 10-year-old, still bringing Steve his favorite comic books. Amelia, though still tired, carried a quiet contentment. She had created a loving home, not just for her children, but for a man who had nowhere else to go. Her initial act of compassion had blossomed into a profound bond, weaving Steve into the very fabric of their existence. She had learned to manage his care with seamless efficiency, her nurse's skills honed by continuous practice. The financial struggles remained, a persistent hum in the background of her life, but the emotional rewards far outweighed the material sacrifices. The community continued to embrace him, their collective kindness a testament to the Roberson family's inclusive spirit. Steve was no longer a lost stranger. He was a cherished elder, surrounded by the warmth of a family he had unknowingly adopted. This long period of stability, however, was about to be profoundly shaken by an unforeseen turn of events, a medical diagnosis that would test their bonds, and, in a twist of fate, begin to unravel the mystery of Steve Wellington's forgotten past.
One morning, Amelia noticed a subtle but concerning change in Steve. He was more lethargic than usual, refusing his breakfast and complaining of a persistent ache in his side. Her nurse's alarm bells immediately went off. While his dementia made it difficult for him to articulate his discomfort clearly, his body language spoke volumes. His breathing seemed shallower, his skin paler, and there was a new, unsettling fragility in his eyes that transcended the usual confusion. Amelia knew, with a sinking feeling, that this was more than just a bad day or a symptom of his dementia. This was something new, something serious. Despite the financial strain, she made an appointment with their local clinic for an immediate checkup. The doctor, after a thorough examination and a series of urgent tests, called Amelia back with somber news. The words hung heavy in the air, chilling her to the bone. "Amelia, Steve has cancer." The diagnosis was a cruel blow, an unexpected storm after 2 years of relative calm. Amelia felt a surge of fear, followed by a familiar surge of fierce protectiveness. Just as she had refused to abandon him when he was lost in his mind, she would not abandon him now. This man, once a stranger, had become family. The news was a stark reminder of life's fragility, but it also solidified her resolve. She would fight for Grandpa Steve, just as she fought for her children, with every fiber of her being. This new battle, however, held a secret twist, a hidden pathway that would not only challenge their resilience, but ultimately unlock the extraordinary truth of Steve Wellington's past and redefine the future of the Roberson family.
The cancer diagnosis hit Amelia like a tidal wave, but her nurse's resolve quickly surfaced. She sat with Steve in the consultation room as the doctor explained the treatment options: chemotherapy. Steve, though still in a fog, seemed to grasp the gravity of the situation in fleeting moments. Amelia listened intently, asking probing questions, her mind already calculating the logistical and financial hurdles. There was no question in her mind. Steve would receive the best care possible, even if it meant further stretching her already meager resources. She explained the situation to Helen and Michael, emphasizing the need for strength and positivity. Helen, now 16, understood the seriousness of cancer, and her concern for Grandpa Steve was palpable. Michael, 10, though scared, bravely offered to help in any way he could, even if it was just telling Steve his funniest jokes to cheer him up. Amelia felt a profound sense of responsibility, a continuation of the silent vow she had made when she first brought him home. This wasn't just about managing a disease, it was about honoring a life. A man who, despite his amnesia, had become an irreplaceable part of their family. The journey ahead would be arduous, filled with uncertainty and pain, but Amelia was ready. She knew that true family stood together in the face of adversity, and they, the Robersons and Steve, were now undeniably a family, bound by a love that transcended blood, circumstance, and even the devastating impact of dementia and disease. This battle would push them to their limits, but it would also, in an unexpected twist of fate, begin to restore what was lost. Steve's first round of chemotherapy was brutal. The powerful drugs ravaged his already fragile body, leaving him weak, nauseous, and even more disoriented. Amelia was his constant shadow, her nurse's skills invaluable. She managed his pain, encouraged him to eat, and offered unending comfort. She slept on a cot by his hospital bed, tending to his every need, her own exhaustion a distant concern. The children visited when they could, their young faces etched with worry as they saw their beloved grandpa so diminished. Michael would bring drawings to brighten his room, while Helen would read to him from his favorite books, even if he couldn't follow the story. The side effects of the treatment were relentless, pushing Steve to the brink of his endurance. Amelia watched him, her heart aching, but also filled with immense admiration for his quiet resilience. He never complained, never resisted, simply endured, a testament to the strength that still resided within him, even as his memory faltered. It was during these long, silent hours, watching Steve fight for his life, that Amelia reflected on the journey they had shared. She had taken in a lost stranger, and in return he had gifted her family with an unspoken lesson in love and perseverance. The chemotherapy was a harsh, unforgiving path, but Amelia held on to a glimmer of hope, a whisper that perhaps, amidst the pain, a miracle might be brewing, an unforeseen turning point that would finally bring Steve back to himself.
The second round of chemotherapy, though still grueling, brought with it a flicker of the unexpected. As Steve battled the physical onslaught of the treatment, Amelia began to notice fleeting moments of clarity, a sudden, sharp observation about the hospital decor, a brief flash of recognition when he saw a news report, a coherent, albeit brief, question about his surroundings. These were not the usual muddled ramblings of dementia. These were sparks, glimpses of the man Steve Wellington once was, breaking through the fog. Amelia held her breath, not daring to hope too much, yet recording every instance. One afternoon, as Helen read a newspaper aloud, Steve suddenly interrupted. "That's a misleading headline," he rasped, his eyes clear for a moment. "The market trend data is entirely misinterpreted." Helen froze, then looked at Amelia, wide-eyed. Amelia simply nodded, a thrill running through her. These moments were brief, often swallowed by renewed confusion, but they were growing more frequent, more distinct. It was as if the chemotherapy, while attacking the cancer, was also inexplicably untangling the neurological knots of his dementia. The medical team, though focused on his cancer treatment, noted these subtle cognitive improvements with cautious optimism, attributing them, perhaps, to a reduction in inflammation or an unexpected side effect of the drugs. But Amelia knew it was more than that. She felt it deep in her bones. Steve was fighting his way back. The man she had known for 2 years was still there, but beneath him, the real Steve Wellington was stirring, awakening from a long, unwanted sleep. Each lucid moment was a beacon, guiding him closer to his past, closer to reclaiming the identity he had lost.
By his third round of chemotherapy, the transformation in Steve Wellington was nothing short of miraculous. The fleeting moments of clarity had solidified into sustained periods of lucidity. The fog that had shrouded his mind for 2 years was visibly lifting, revealing the sharp, incisive intellect that had once built an empire. Names, faces, memories, they flooded back in a torrent, overwhelming him at times, but each wave bringing more of his past into vivid focus. He remembered his mansion, his company, his life, and he remembered Amelia, Helen, and Michael. He remembered their kindness, their patience, their unwavering love. The realization of how deeply he had been cared for, completely selflessly by this family, brought tears to his eyes, tears of gratitude and profound humility. He began to piece together the narrative of his dementia, the wandering, the hospital, and finally Amelia taking him in. It was an astonishing, almost unbelievable story, and he was the unwitting protagonist. He watched his adopted family, now in sharp, vivid detail, with a new level of awareness. He saw Amelia's exhaustion, Helen's quiet strength, Michael's boundless affection. He understood the sacrifices they had made for him, a stranger. The gratitude he felt was immense, a powerful surge of emotion that eclipsed the physical pain of his illness. This was not just a recovery from cancer, it was a resurrection of his mind, a rebirth of his identity. Steve Wellington was back, and he returned to a world completely changed, not just by his illness, but by the extraordinary family that had saved him. His past was restored, but his future, he knew, was now intrinsically linked to theirs, a debt of kindness he intended to repay with all the resources at his command. With his memories fully restored, Steve Wellington was overwhelmed by a cascade of emotions, the shame of his vulnerability, the terror of his lost years, and above all, an immense, life-altering gratitude for Amelia and her children. He looked at Amelia, her face etched with the weariness of endless care, and saw not just a nurse, but a guardian angel, a woman whose boundless heart had saved him from a desolate fate. He remembered fragments of his former life, the isolation of his mansion, the absence of true connection, the vast empty spaces his wealth couldn't fill. Now he understood the true meaning of family, forged not by blood, but by an unwavering, selfless love. He knew his identity, his fortune, his empire, but what resonated most deeply was the 2 years he had spent as Grandpa Steve, the forgotten man who had been given a home, a name, and a family when he had nothing else. He watched Michael laugh at a silly joke, saw Helen studying diligently, and his heart swelled with a feeling he had rarely experienced, belonging. The realization was profound. This humble family, living paycheck to paycheck, had given him more than all his billions ever could. He was not just cured of cancer and dementia, he was reborn, his priorities irrevocably shifted. His life, once dedicated to accumulation, would now be dedicated to restitution and purpose. He had been given a second chance, a rare opportunity to rewrite his legacy. And Amelia, his selfless caregiver, would be at the heart of his transformation, the true inheritor of his renewed purpose and boundless generosity. His return to clarity marked not an end, but a magnificent beginning, not just for him, but for the family who had opened their hearts and home without question. The moment of revelation was a quiet, intimate one in Steve's hospital room. "Amelia," Steve began, his voice stronger now, though still tinged with emotion, "I remember everything." Amelia, who had seen glimmers of his return, listened with a mixture of awe and trepidation as Steve recounted the story of his life, his dementia, his wandering, and his eventual rescue. He spoke of his vast fortune, his company, and his utter lack of family. Then his gaze softened as he looked at her. "For 2 years you took me in. You clothed me, fed me, cared for me, without knowing who I was, without a single penny of payment." His voice broke with emotion. "You gave me a family when I had none, Amelia. You taught my children, and me, what true compassion means." Amelia, tears silently streaming down her face, could only nod. The weight of her sacrifice, the 2 years of relentless, unpaid care, was finally acknowledged, finally seen. Steve took her hand, his grip firm. "My life, my fortune, everything I have means nothing without meaning. And you, Amelia, you gave me that meaning back. You and Helen and Michael are my family now. And I intend to make sure you are taken care of, and that your incredible spirit of generosity can touch countless other lives." He outlined his initial plan, to move them into his mansion, to provide them with the security and comfort they deserved, and to establish a foundation in his name, with Amelia at its helm. It was an astonishing proposition, a dizzying reversal of fortunes, born of an act of pure, selfless love. Amelia, though overwhelmed, felt a profound sense of validation, her heart filled with a mixture of shock, relief, and immense hope for a future she could never have dreamed possible, for herself and for her children.
The move to Steve's mansion was a whirlwind,
a dream unfolding in broad daylight. Amelia, Helen, and Michael found themselves transported from their cozy Southside apartment to a world of unimaginable luxury. The children's reactions were priceless. Michael, eyes wide with wonder, dashed through the grand halls, marveling at the sheer size of the rooms. "It's like a castle, Grandpa," he exclaimed, his voice echoing through the opulent spaces. Helen, initially more reserved, explored with quiet awe, her artistic eye appreciating the grandeur and intricate details. For Amelia, it was a surreal experience. The stark contrast between the humble existence she had known and the boundless opulence surrounding them was almost overwhelming. She found herself in a sprawling kitchen, larger than her entire apartment, a staff ready to assist with every need, a luxury she hadn't dared to dream of. Steve, now back in fine suits, his posture straighter, his voice resonant, watched their reactions with a profound sense of satisfaction. He saw the genuine joy in the children's faces, the quiet amazement in Amelia's eyes, and felt a sense of purpose he hadn't known in decades. This wasn't just about giving them material wealth, it was about giving them a chance, a future, and a home that was truly theirs. The mansion, once a lonely monument to his success, now buzzed with the laughter of children, the warmth of family, and the vibrant energy of a new beginning. It was no longer just Steve Wellington's house, it was the Robertson Wellington home, a testament to the extraordinary journey they had shared, a testament to the transformative power of kindness and unexpected family bonds.
Steve Wellington wasted no time in reorganizing his entire estate. His initial task was to secure his health, undergoing further treatments and working closely with doctors to manage his cancer and ensure his dementia would not return. Simultaneously, he summoned his legal team and financial advisors, astounding them with the story of his lost years and the selfless family who had cared for him. The initial skepticism of his stern, professional lawyers quickly turned to disbelief, then admiration, as Steve recounted Amelia's unwavering dedication. He instructed them to establish a robust foundation to which he would transfer the vast majority of his wealth. This foundation, he declared, would be dedicated to supporting underprivileged communities in Chicago, focusing on education, healthcare, and social services, precisely the needs Amelia had navigated every day of her life. He also ensured that Amelia and her children were legally and financially secure, establishing trust funds for Helen and Michael's education and providing Amelia with significant resources to ensure her family's future comfort. His actions were swift, decisive, and imbued with a deep sense of purpose. He was not just giving away his fortune, he was investing in a legacy of kindness, transforming his immense wealth into a force for good, guided by the values Amelia had so powerfully embodied. His recovery was not just physical, it was a spiritual renaissance, a complete recalibration of his life's purpose. The man who had been lost and forgotten was now meticulously planning a future of profound impact, ensuring that the kindness shown to him would ripple outwards, touching countless lives, all because of the selfless heart of one remarkable woman.
Steve's next priority was to prepare Amelia to become the head of his new foundation. He recognized her innate compassion, her practical experience in community care, and her unwavering integrity. These qualities, he knew, were far more valuable than any fancy degree. He immersed her in the world of philanthropy, introducing her to his advisors, his business partners, and the intricacies of managing a multi-billion-dollar endowment. Amelia, though initially daunted by the scale of the responsibility, approached her new role with characteristic diligence and humility. She spent countless hours learning about financial management, strategic planning, and the legal frameworks of large-scale charity work. Steve acted as her mentor, patiently explaining complex concepts, sharing his vast business acumen, and encouraging her to trust her instincts. He saw in her not just a successor, but an evolution of his own purpose, a force for good uniquely equipped to make a difference on an unprecedented scale. Helen and Michael watched their mother's transformation with pride.
Helen admired Amelia's dedication, while Michael, always enthusiastic, loved hearing about the grand plans for helping people. Amelia, meanwhile, never forgot her roots. She brought her Southside perspective, her nurse's pragmatism, and her mother's heart to every meeting, ensuring that the Foundation's work would be deeply rooted in genuine community needs. This period of intense learning and empowerment was not just about professional development, it was about Amelia stepping into her true potential, harnessing her extraordinary capacity for care and compassion to effect change on an unprecedented scale, transforming her selfless act into a powerful legacy that would resonate far beyond her immediate family. The official announcement of the Wellington Foundation, with Amelia Roberson at its helm, sent ripples through the philanthropic world and, more importantly, through the communities of Chicago. Steve, now completely recovered from his cancer and dementia, stood proudly beside Amelia at the press conference, his voice strong and clear as he recounted their extraordinary story. He spoke of Amelia's selfless heart, her 2 years of unpaid care, and his decision to entrust his life's work to her. Amelia Roberson, he declared, is the embodiment of true compassion. It is her vision, her dedication, and her understanding of human need that will guide this foundation to make a profound difference in our city. Amelia, poised and eloquent in her new role, spoke with passion and humility. She outlined the Foundation's mission: to empower the underserved, to create opportunities, and to foster community resilience, just as her own community had supported her. She spoke of the importance of recognizing the dignity in every individual, a lesson she had learned firsthand while caring for a lost billionaire. The media, initially captivated by the sensational story of a lost magnate, quickly shifted their focus to Amelia's inspiring leadership and the Foundation's ambitious goals. She wasn't just a figurehead, she was a driving force, her personal story providing a powerful moral compass for the Foundation's work. The transfer of responsibility was not just symbolic, it was a profound act of trust, a testament to Steve's renewed purpose and Amelia's undeniable capacity for leadership. This marked the true culmination of their journey, a magnificent testament to how an unexpected act of kindness could transform not just individual lives, but an entire city, creating a legacy built on the very principles of compassion and community care that Amelia had embodied for so long. Under Amelia's dynamic leadership, the Wellington Foundation blossomed, becoming a beacon of hope for Chicago's underserved communities. Her deep understanding of the city's South Side, coupled with her nurse's pragmatic approach, allowed the foundation to implement programs that genuinely met local needs. She launched initiatives for STEM education in inner-city schools, established free community health clinics, and created mentorship programs for at-risk youth, drawing on the very experiences that had shaped her life. Her personal story resonated deeply, inspiring countless volunteers and drawing in new partners. She was a hands-on leader, often visiting the programs, speaking with beneficiaries, and ensuring that the Foundation's impact was real and tangible. Helen, now a brilliant college student, interned with the Foundation during her breaks, contributing her sharp intellect to its mission. Michael, a bright and compassionate teenager, volunteered at community events, a constant reminder of the Foundation's origin story. Amelia's journey from a struggling single mother to the head of a multi-billion-dollar philanthropic empire was an inspiration, a testament to the power of kindness and the strength of the human spirit. She had not only honored Steve's vision, but had expanded upon it, infusing it with her own unique blend of empathy and strategic acumen. The Foundation was no longer just Steve's legacy. It was Amelia's, a testament to the transformative power of one woman's selfless act, now amplified to touch thousands of lives, proving that true wealth lies not in what one accumulates, but in what one gives back. The Roberson-Wellington family blossomed in their new reality.
The mansion, once cold and austere, now echoed with the sounds of laughter, lively debates, and the constant hum of a loving, bustling home. Helen and Michael thrived, not just in their education, but in their expanded worldview. They traveled, met influential people, and gained access to opportunities previously unimaginable. Yet they remained grounded, their hearts still rooted in the Southside values Amelia had instilled. Steve, now truly Grandpa Steve, reveled in his role as patriarch. His health continued to improve, and he spent his days engaged in lively discussions with the children, imparting wisdom and watching with immense pride as Amelia steered the foundation. He often sat in the grand living room, a warm smile on his face, listening to Michael recount his school adventures or Helen discuss her latest art project. Their family wasn't defined by their wealth, but by the extraordinary circumstances that had brought them together and the unconditional love that bound them. They were a testament to the idea that family is found, not just inherited, a mosaic of experiences and backgrounds united by a shared history of profound kindness. Amelia ensured that despite their new lifestyle, the children never forgot their past, regularly visiting their old neighborhood, volunteering at the foundation's local projects, and maintaining connections with their old friends. This blended family, a billionaire and a nurse, two children from different worlds, was a living embodiment of true wealth, measured in the abundance of love, purpose, and shared humanity they now possessed. Steve Wellington's health continued to astound his doctors. Not only had he conquered cancer, but the severe dementia that had plagued him seemed to have receded completely, leaving him with a sharp, vibrant mind. He attributed his recovery not just to medical science, but to the profound purpose Amelia had given him and the unwavering love of his new family. He enjoyed a quality of life he hadn't experienced even before his illness, his days filled with purpose, connection, and joy. He took an active, albeit advisory, role in the foundation, offering his vast business insights to Amelia, but always allowing her the freedom to lead with her compassionate vision. He spent mornings reading in his grand library, afternoons playing chess with Michael, and evenings sharing stories with Helen and Amelia. His face, once etched with the worry of a solitary man, now bore the serene lines of contentment and peace. He often reflected on his 2 lost years, not with bitterness, but with a deep sense of gratitude for the journey that had led him to Amelia and her children. Those years, though initially terrifying, had been his greatest teacher, stripping away the layers of his wealth and ego to reveal the true meaning of life. He was a living testament to resilience, a man who had faced the abyss of lost identity and returned, reborn, with a heart full of love and a renewed purpose. His physical and mental well-being were a direct reflection of his spiritual healing, a remarkable transformation brought about by the most unexpected of saviors, a humble nurse from the South Side and her loving children. One quiet evening, Steve and Amelia sat on the terrace of the mansion, overlooking the glittering expanse of the Chicago skyline. 2 years had passed since the foundation's launch, and their lives, once worlds apart, were now irrevocably intertwined. "Amelia," Steve began, his voice soft, "I often think about that day when you found me in the park. You had every reason to walk away, to leave a confused old man to his fate, but you didn't. You saw a human being in need, and you acted with a kindness I had never known." Amelia smiled, a gentle warmth in her eyes. "Grandpa Steve, you gave me so much more than you could ever know. You gave me the chance to truly live my values, to show my children the power of compassion, and to realize my own potential. You opened up a world for us, but you also reminded us of the simple beauty of a home filled with love." They sat in comfortable silence, a profound understanding passing between them. Their bond was unique, forged in adversity, cemented by unwavering care, and deepened by shared purpose. It was a testament to the extraordinary connections that can arise from the most unlikely of circumstances. Steve, once a solitary figure, now had a family, a legacy, and a heart full of gratitude. Amelia, once struggling, now commanded an empire of good, her compassion amplified to touch thousands of lives. Their story was a powerful narrative of redemption and resilience, a reminder that true wealth is not measured in material possessions, but in the richness of human connection, the profound impact of selfless love, and the enduring power of a single, compassionate act to transform lives beyond imagination. The story of Steve Wellington, the billionaire lost to dementia and rediscovered by the kindness of a stranger, became a modern legend in Chicago. The Wellington Foundation, under Amelia's leadership, continued to thrive, its impact rippling through the city's fabric, offering hope and opportunity where there was once despair. Michael grew up to become a successful advocate for social justice, inspired by his mother's work and Steve's transformation. Helen became a renowned architect, designing sustainable and affordable housing projects for underserved communities, her artistry now serving a greater purpose. Steve Wellington lived a long, full life, surrounded by the love of his adopted family, a stark contrast to the isolation of his early years. He often said that the greatest gift of his life wasn't his billions, but the 2 years he spent as Grandpa Steve, the time when he learned the true value of human connection. Amelia Roberson, the selfless nurse, became a revered figure, her name synonymous with compassion and effective philanthropy. She had started with an act of kindness to a lost stranger and ended up changing countless lives, including her own. Their story resonated far beyond Chicago, a powerful reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary changes spring from the simplest acts of human decency. It taught the world that wealth without purpose is empty, but purpose, fueled by a compassionate heart, can create a legacy more valuable than any fortune. The once-lost billionaire and the humble nurse, their lives intertwined by fate, proved that empathy is the ultimate currency, and that the richest lives are those dedicated to lifting others, leaving behind a profound legacy of love, generosity, and unwavering hope.